Well, beloved, we talked about the ride the last episode.
We did.
Now we're going to talk about the experiences.
Wow.
Buckle up.
Welcome to the Called to Love podcast, a show dedicated to exploring how human relationships and intimacy with God are connected. Join us as we discuss hard-hitting topics that inspire and motivate you to go deeper into the intricacies of building meaningful relationships. Here now are your hosts, James Levacy and Brian Canadle.
All right, we're back. We're going to talk about more of the trip that we took on our motorcycles. But we're going to really talk about some of the experiences we had down there with some real people. I find it so interesting, no matter where we go, we run into people that are struggling with something. Sometimes they've gone through a tremendous battle and they're, walking it out. They're covering it up. Sometimes the people with the biggest smiles, I find, have went through the biggest hurts. And they're using that smile to just cover it up and just kind of get through the day. But no matter where we went or where we go, if we engage people, we find out that they're really hungry for somebody to listen to them, to be able to talk to them, and to just be able to get some stuff off their chest. And I was amazed at how many believers that we ran into in Kentucky. Not anything about Kentucky. It's just so many people were open to talking about Jesus there. And they weren't really trying to hide it or anything. But they would see us do something nice, and they would come up and say, I believe in Jesus, and what you guys are doing was just amazing. And I could just tell y'all just are the nicest guys, and y'all made that person's day over there. And then they'll just start talking about their relationship with the Lord, just out of the blue.
It was, the drive there. On our last episode, we talked about the incredible ride, last 2 hours of getting there. And our itinerary involved the Ark, going and seeing the Ark and seeing the Creation Museum. But one of the guys that was on the ride with us on the way back, he said, you know what? The encounters that we had with the people that opened up and wanted to share their story and their journey, and the opportunity we had to interact with them, to encourage them, to pray with them, was just as important, was just as big of a highlight as the reason we went to begin with.
Oh, I agree 100%. There was some times that, like this one lady, she saw our motorcycles, and they were parked. The motorcycles were a spectacle. They were right in front of the hotel. They let us park under the roof, the awning, whatever, the drive-through where you check in. And so everybody that come and went knew that those motorcycles were there. And they also knew who was riding them, because they'd see us pull in, get off of them. And then I guess we were wearing some sort of biker-looking attire. We were wearing Indian shirts and things like that. But this one lady come out, and she was just head over heels talking about the bikes and how she admired the bike. And I remember her, just saying, well, do you want to ride one? And she was like, oh, my God, are you serious? Are you serious? And she just got all excited. She said this was going to be the highlight of her vacation. And, you ended up giving her a ride. And she was just praising the Lord. You had your praise and worship music on. It was blaring. And she just had her arms up, just praising Jesus while y'all were going. And then she started sharing her heart with you. And I'm just getting this secondhand because you were telling us about it.
She looked like someone who, that would not be comfortable on a bike. She looked like someone who would not, would want to ride a bike, but her intrigue, it really moved me, because, there are times when people say, hey man, nice car. Well, we're not going to say, do you want to drive it? Or you don't do that. But I just felt compelled to say that. And she was overwhelmed. We pulled up at the light, And she started, I was listening to her, and she was like, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. And I was like, so tell me a little bit about yourself. Well, your name is Brian, right? And I'm like, yes. Well, my husband's name is Brian. Oh, great. We've been married for 26 years, and we just went to go see the Ark today, and, he's back at the hotel resting, and we've been seeing your bikes. Your bikes were parked all day. We ended up getting a ride. That's another story from a gentleman, because there were no taxi cabs, no Lyft, no Uber. And so we left the bikes parked, and we didn't want to drive in the rain to go, but they were there all day. And so she was waiting for us to be near the bikes so she could say. And it wasn't until later another woman witnessed the entire conversation, and she later came to us and said, y'all gave that lady a ride. That was the kindest thing that you did. You didn't have to, but you did. People are watching to see if you will go beyond and do something that ordinarily you may not be apt to do. And she just shared with me that was a bucket list. She wanted to be on an Indian motorcycle, and she was so grateful and so thankful. And we just had a great conversation. And when we came back, y'all were taping on your phones, and
Yeah.
she was just thrilled, and she smiled the whole evening, just constantly telling people about that experience.
Yeah.
That's more than handing someone a tract. That's more than preaching to them. I mean, I just let her share her heart, her story. She just recently lost her dad. And just people, when they feel comfortable and they feel like value or identity's been placed on them, there's nothing that's going to stop them from being relaxed, open their heart. And that's what she did. It was a great experience.
Well, there's no other time typically that we try to open up with, hey, I've got something you need. Listen to me. I mean, typically, if we're going to run into somebody in a store or we're, in a restaurant, we're going to just shoot the breeze with them. And then if if you got some commonality, you'll find it eventually. But people are usually going to be closed-minded to just an aggressive, abrupt, hey, here, I know something you don't, and I know it better than you do, and you need it, and I've got it. It don't work very well.
Almost every restaurant we went to, we engaged with the waitress. But what we did was, and this is a philosophy you and I follow, and I know it's the Holy Spirit. When you bring identity, value, and appreciation, if you identify them, find something just to recognize them. We always say, so what is your name? It's an honor having you serve us. It's so very nice to meet you. And then oftentimes we'll just name off everybody at the table, and suddenly they feel like, wow, they've identified themselves and they identified us. And then we place value on them. When we were at Cracker Barrel, I said, we love 4 stars. We love 4 stars. I mean, we're among someone that is highly skilled and highly gifted. And what they do is, it's like a lock on their heart. And when you just simply place value and identity and appreciation, it's like the padlock comes off their heart and the gate opens up. And now they're ready to receive, not for you to preach to them, but sometimes they just want to share their heart. And that's what we saw nonstop the whole time we were there.
Oh, it was beautiful. Do you remember the woman that waited on us at the little country restaurant?
Yes.
And she had such a big smile. Just warm, friendly. I mean, greeted us, enthusiastically. And, we got to talking to her. And before we knew it, because we were asking specific questions, trying to get to know her, not just, here's our order, here's our drinks and the things that we want. But we were trying to find out about her. Turns out she was going through a tremendous trial. Her mom had, just had brain surgery. She had 2 forms of cancer that was in her body. and she had just gotten back to work because she had had to take vacation time to take care of her mom, and then her siblings were all taking turns. And so, man, if that wasn't enough, we said, well, what about your father? Well, he's
gone.
He's gone.
She said he was gone.
She said, well, he's in federal prison. And we're like, oh. She goes, but it's okay. I've made peace with him, and I had to move him the other day because he's getting old, and if that wasn't enough, then she had 2 children. They were twins that had just about died, and no other. They were at a pumpkin patch, and the animals there had gave them E. coli.
Yeah.
And their kidneys were shutting down. And she said all she could do is just believe and pray and just put on a good attitude, because she knew God was bigger than the circumstance and situation. And we were intrigued by that. We were like, how did you get to this place of being so happy? And she started to describe how great God was. And there's a lot of people that will go through circumstances like that, and they will do the opposite. If God loved me, if God was good, he would do this or he would do that.
She had a great perspective.
Yeah.
And, breakfast in the mornings from 6 to 9, and everyone would come down, and people were sitting at each other's table. You saw me several times. I was sitting with different couples, a couple from Michigan, a couple from Virginia, and both, they just were so willing to share. And I think that's the beautiful thing about our trips is God just shows up. That lady that came later, and after telling us, that was so kind of you to give that lady a ride, and then she tells us, I've been battling with cancer. Would y'all pray with me?
Yeah.
And then we all got a chance to pray. It's something beautiful when everyone recognizes how relational the people that we experience while they're in Dry Ridge. They were the kindest people. It was really a great experience. But that was the highlight, not just all the extraordinary things that we saw and just incredible artifacts and history, biblical history, and just amazing hand of God on people in those times, and how we just got to witness a lot of things. But the relationships we encounter had everything to do with the highlight of our entire trip.
Yeah, it really was. There was one morning you introduced me to a couple, Linda and Eli, I believe.
Yes.
Just a precious couple. Their pastor had paid for them to come out and just get away because she had been experiencing pancreatic. Am I saying it right? Pancreas cancer. Sorry. She went through some phases of being upset about it. She said she got to where, and her husband confirmed it, that she couldn't hardly even walk. And man, let me tell you, she looked amazing. I mean, she was getting around. She had energy. And it seemed like there was just a perspective that changed. And you know what she told us? She said, this cancer has brought my whole family to know Jesus. She said they're all praying now because they're concerned about me. The things that I wanted for my children to know God and to be close to him, they're now doing it on their own. And they're seeing my light. They're seeing what's happening. They're seeing me being healed. Like they weren't going to be able to operate, but now they can because the cancer has shrunk so dramatically. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? She goes, well, we've changed our diet, and we just believe God. And he can do anything. And you never hear those stories.
No. Well, I mean, those were just people that were there for the ark.
Yeah.
We couldn't find Friday morning that was a monsoon. There was no way we were going to get our bikes out at that moment. We just going to get an Uber or Lyft, and they weren't even available in our area. Yet the clerk called his brother, and it just so happens his brother was in desperate need. And by giving us a ride to where we needed to go, he opens up and he shares his heart. We ask questions, of course, which opened the door. And here's a recovering addict. Here's someone with a young daughter and a teenage son, and just going through a terrible time, and no money. Had the kids for the weekend, and because of his brother connecting him with us, he was able to have some money to spend with his kids for the weekend. He shared his journey, shared his heart. We encouraged him to be in community, not to isolate. And he goes, why do you, he was telling me and Walt, he was like, why, who does this? Who cares about anybody's struggle? Who cares about why do y'all even care about me and my children in my life? I mean, who does that? Y'all are the nicest guys. I mean, y'all genuinely cared. And we go, we do care. You are a brother. And we just believe it's divine that your brother called you.
Yeah.
And then his brother, I ran into his brother later, and he's like, hey, I just want you to know that that's exactly what my brother needed to get through the weekend financially. But the thing he kept talking about was not what you did for him and how y'all blessed him. He's talking about how y'all just poured into him and encouraged him. And you just never know until you hear it second or third hand just how, when you hear it like that.
Yeah. Well, if we could ever grasp the idea that just because a door closes, like we were desperately trying to, I think I spent $200. I mean, I got it back, but just booking Uber rides, and then one would fall through, and I'd book another one, it would fall through, and then let's try Lyft, and I'd book one through there, and it'd fall through. I looked at my bank statement, I had all these charges, like, oh my gosh. And then, but we were dead set on that, and at some point we just like,
let's go ask the clerk.
yeah, let's start talking to people. Maybe we're not supposed to get an Uber.
Well, you walked up to the front desk, and the next thing you know is, hey, he's going to make a call.
Yeah.
And it just fell together. It couldn't have been a better setup.
It couldn't have been a better thing. And it's like, we weren't supposed to get an Uber that day. We were supposed to have an encounter with the guy named Race.
Yes.
That was his name. And we were supposed to give him something that the Father wanted us to give him. And you're right, it went way beyond money. But these experiences that we have, what if that's what we're supposed to be doing on this earth? What if the reason why we were created was to go out into the world and tell people the gospel and not just preach at them, but live it out, like the celebrity was talking about in the last podcast I was mentioning, where he was just crying, pleading for people to just love, just be nice,
yes,
just to be kind. He was so tired of being, put down and just have to push and pull through everything like it was a struggle. Can't we just be kind? Can't we just exhibit it? Hey, don't tell me about Jesus. Just show me. Will you show me Jesus? Can I touch him? Can I feel him? Can I see him? Are you living it out? Is this what it's all about? What if that's what it's all about? Anyway, we'll talk more about this topic again, but that concludes this podcast.
What a great trip, James.
Yeah. Thank y'all for joining us.
We hope this episode of the Called to Love podcast has enriched your life and offered valuable principles to apply on your personal journey. Please explore our website at www.calledto.love for more information and to share your feedback with us. Until our next episode, may you find peace and love. And always remember, you are called to love.